We have a quorum, which is all awesome. Before we get to the agenda, I want to go through a few really quick things, and then we can get the show on the road here. Does anybody remember the date when we went through the 4 sets of minutes, which I think was like 5/27, 6/1, 6/10, and there was another date? Anybody remember what meeting that was, that we approved all the minutes as amended?
I don't. Bill, can they readily get the video copies of the meetings?
I think they can, but that's gonna move me on to my next point in a second. But I mean, we took the minutes, we read the minutes, we approved the minutes as amended. I just cannot find the date of that meeting. And I'm gonna guess it was either the meeting in July, because I think we only met once in August, and I didn't see those on Amy's minutes.
Bill, maybe it was July 13th. I see the email from Sonia with the minutes attached, the 4 sets.
Right.
She sent them to you on June 30th, so it would have had to be probably the first meeting after that. She forwarded them out to us on July 11th.
All right, so we must have had a meeting around that. I think Paul just said the 13th, so let me
Yeah,
check.
it would be the 13th.
Now, I guess the next question is, did anybody take minutes on the 13th? Oh boy. All right. All right. Well, we'll try to figure that one out. So, Mike Eunice, how you doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. So, where do we stand on a minute taker? Because I feel that more than one member who's basically, indicated, I can't pay attention to the meeting of really what's going on while I'm taking minutes. And as volunteers, it gets, sometimes these meetings get a little lengthy. Where do we stand on either a replacement or someone in town hall who can steal an hour or so out of their week to review the audio and just type up minutes?
Yep. We haven't had any takers yet on the job, but we will get the minutes done for you using the audio. If we can't find someone soon, we may have more takers now that the meetings are Zoom. It'll be easier for them. So we have some that may be interested. But if not, we'll get someone in the town hall to do the minutes from the video.
So someone, would that be starting tonight?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And I guess in the world of, 2020 here, do we actually, when you have video as a form of historical, I don't want to say document, but a historical piece of information, do you actually need written minutes?
Yeah, you do, unfortunately.
Almost. All right, so we have a minute taker for tonight and forward. That's great. Can I just verify that everyone can again get into their town email? And I'll just go down the list of everybody. Amy?
I can now, yes, thank you.
Awesome. Aaron?
Yes, I can.
Zach?
Yes, after lengthy exchange, they finally got it working today.
Awesome. Peter?
Never had a problem.
Really? Excellent. Steve?
No,
No, you can't.
no,
All right, have you reached out to Charlene?
no. So that's one thing. So we're good. It's clear. The town is recommending that we connect it safe.
Mike?
Steve, are you around? Can you come in Thursday morning?
Yes.
All right. Come on in and we'll make sure it gets straightened out.
Okay, thank you.
Rick?
Yes. I'm all set.
You're all set with the email? Okay. Paula, I think I have.
Yeah, I'm all set.
All set? Awesome. Kevin?
Yeah, I'm all good.
All good? Awesome. Bonnie?
Hi. I haven't checked recently because of the situation, so I can check and let you know. It was working
Okay.
before, but I haven't checked since the virus problem. So.
Yeah, it was working for me up until like a month ago, and then all of a sudden it died, and it wasn't a high priority to get reconnected, but it took a while once made it a priority. But anyway, okay, so we should be all set there. Okay, the last thing, kind of the last topic I'd want to hit, you know, I've sat here in this seat for 2 years. I came in and pretty soon thereafter, I kind of was hit with did you see what so-and-so did? And then, you know, when I was out of email in the beginning of September, the same thing happened again, where, you know, there's some uproar as to whether, you know, views posed in a social media setting are appropriate. The only thing I can say is we're not such a committee or establishment town or whatever where your setting of your views on a social media format is prohibited. So, you know, all I can say from my standpoint, and, you know, whoever takes over this job may have a vastly different opinion, but, you know, free speech is still a thing in this country. So I would just suggest to anybody on social media and for those reacting to it that, you know, free speech is still allowed. You may want to temper some of your views in a public setting because, you know, if in that setting you're saying, hey, I'm a FinCom member, well, then that does reflect on the rest of us also. So it's one thing to have an opinion. It's another thing if you're just, you know, inappropriate language and calling someone an idiot or something like that. That's all I'll say. It reflects upon all of us. But with that said, you're allowed to have an opinion. So I don't know why this issue keeps coming up. I just kind of amazed at it. But as I said in the previous meeting, I'm not on social media, so it takes a while for it to circle back to me.
Mr. Chairman,
So, Peter,
I'm not supposed to be either. I have no idea what you're talking about.
things are said on a social media platform, other people get wind of it, and the whole he said, she said, you shouldn't say that, well, I'm allowed to say that, and it just blows, it gets bigger and bigger, So I don't want to go into any further detail than that. Feel free to call me offline and I'll certainly, fill in the blank. With that said, it's my belief, and I'll take it to the day I'm no longer on this committee, is that, we opine to the recommendations of the town manager. But that doesn't mean that we should not be asking for certain information, and we should not be pushing back if we don't feel we have the information to move forward. So, if anybody reviewed the articles for the upcoming fall meeting, there are two things on there that are requesting, what I will say will be large sums of money for potential town hall and potential senior center. And I gotta tell you, here I go again. How are we paying for it? I don't see projections on something like that. You guys can all happily now vote to get me out of this chair. So, the first thing on our agenda is the reorganization of this committee. So, I will entertain a motion. I guess I would start, I start with a motion for the chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Rick,
raise your nomination, Steve Evans for chair. Second.
okay, I got a motion and a second. Motion by Rick, second by Peter, to nominate Steve Evans as chair.
Hey, Bill.
Further discussion, and that would be Bonnie, yes.
I was wondering if now would be the time to make a different nomination, or how does that work? Are all the nominations named at this point, and then we go from there?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to nominate, or make a motion to nominate Amy Sawyer.
I would like to second that nomination.
Okay, hold on. So, we just 2 years into this, and some of this still baffles me. So, I have a motion and a second for Steve. So, to the rules of how this works, do we need to vote that first?
No,
we're making motions and seconds for nominees.
I don't even think it's supposed to be phrased this way. I think it's more, I nominate so-and-so, or I nominate so-and-so, and then we gather all the nominations for consideration. That's what I thought.
Yes.
Okay. If that's how it works, as I said, I still sometimes baffles me.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay. So now I have a nomination and a second for Amy. So we have Steve, we have Amy. So, discussion.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Aaron.
Hi.
Looks like you missed church.
I am. So we have on this committee a norm of kind of a rotational chair, yes?
Rotation.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So Steve was the vice chair last year, or, prior 2 years. And typically what we do here is, it being rotational, Steve ascends to the chairmanship, and then the longest serving member who's not served comes in as the vice chair, which would be Amy. Next in the rotation.
I don't know if it works that way. I think from my experience, it was, hey, your short straw is now up, and you have to serve as chairman. Who do you want to be your vice chairman? And it's really not. It's really not, gee, who's the next longest standing to just automatically be the vice chair. That's kind of how it was told to me.
So then that would not be rotation, right? Because what we're doing is, if the vice chair is going, we're going to stick with the norm of the vice chair ascending to the chairmanship.
Yep.
Right, but then that new chairman is picking his picking his vice chair. He's picking the next chairman. And so we don't end up making a full rotation.
Correct.
The way I would like to see this work is that we stick with just a kind of, I don't want the chairmanship to be something that we aspire to or clamor for or fight. I'd like this committee to just function as a single unit, and the norm that, when I first asked, do we have a rotational norm, there were a lot of yeses out there. But now it's, well, no, we don't. So my question, I guess, is, do we have a norm of a rotational chair? And if so, I think we should just stick with that norm and make it fully rotational and not be advocating or, this should be the easiest thing we do all year, right? Is we know who's next and we cycle through.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I think Peter was first.
Rick was first.
Okay, Rick, go ahead.
I'll just state from experience for, I think this is my 8th year, it's been the practice that the chairman will select the vice chair or nominate the vice chair. And then we as a committee will approve or not approve that, vote on that selection by the chairman for the vice chair. So by theory, you are allowing all members to rotate through, but it's the chairman who selects the vice chair for a vote.
So there's no rotation, because
Correct.
Bill could nominate Steve as his vice chair, who could nominate you, who could nominate Bill, who could nominate Steve, who could nominate you, who could nominate Bill, who could nominate Steve.
Well,
I could do
Again,
that.
again, it would be coming from a vote, so it's not a fiat. Yeah, it's a vote. It's
Right.
an open vote, so when it's not locked, but the chairman has the latitude to select the vice chair. The vice chair will then be voted by the members of the committee. So that's how it has worked, and I know since I've been on, I think it's been probably prior years to that, because actually, Bill, I think you have seniority over me. Is that correct?
I've
think
been
you-
on it for 10 years now. I
Yeah,
can
so-
tell you,
Right, and this is your first chair, and I was the chair, and I selected you, or asked you to be the vice chair, and I actually did not have years' experience. You were a little bit longer tenured on the committee, but it just worked because Mike was the chair, and I was the vice chair, and then I asked you for consideration, and then we voted for you as vice chair. So it's not necessarily eliminating the rotation, it's allowing everyone to get a chance, but to select the chairman has the, as I said, the latitude or the opportunity to introduce the vice chair for a vote, for consideration, nomination, and a vote.
so kind of in between what you're saying and what Aaron is saying is when, I had sat there for, I'm going to say like 7 years, and I was very happy to be in that corner seat out of the camera, and it was said to me both by you and by other members is your time is up, Bill. You actually have to serve as chair. So there's kind of the ability to pick, but someone, at least during those days, was kind of taking notes of who hasn't been chair. And I don't know whether that was like Paul or Tom.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're actually, at least since, again, that I've been on, I mean, I think, some members have not, I don't say the word want, but have not, been the chair, and they're fine with that. So, so to say it's a rotating practice is really not. It's really comes from the chair and vice chair selection, and then that vice chair will then go select someone who they want to be the vice chair or work with.
Chairman?
Peter,
So I found I was the chair at one point, and I can tell you this: when you're the chair, it's very difficult to be involved in the conversation because you're kind of trying to run the show. So personally, I'd rather not be the chair unless most of the time people would want to be the chair until it was like their turn, and so they got stuck with it. It's truly so. I think we ought to have the newer people on the committee that have been here and haven't been the chair or vice chair. They should they should at least get into the vice chair. So I'm talking, that's Aaron, that's Amy, that's Paula, Kevin, Zach. I mean, we're talking
How
anyone.
dare you?
What? And Bonnie. Did I say Bonnie yet?
Thank you.
All of the
Well, I'm
they've
kidding.
been a bunch of new people since the old timers have gone. So I think, we're on the right track. I think that the vice chair usually becomes the chair because they've sat in the vice chair and they've taken the chair's place when the chair wasn't there. They've filled in a couple times. So they should be comfortable running the meeting and how to call out people, and just kind of run the meeting. It's great. You got that experience. And then they're, usually generally sit to the left of the chair and they're still around afterwards. So I like to get somebody new in there. I think that's the best way to go. And it gets new ideas. I mean, you came in as chair, you had some new ideas too. I think that's great. I think that's where we should continue to go. Stick with the vice chair having the experience to be the new chair. And then that person picks someone new to say, hey, come on along, get this chair thing. That way, eventually the whole committee knows how to be the chair, and they help the person that's running the show.
Mr. Chairman?
Bonnie?
Yes. I have a number of thoughts. One is that I've been on the board for I think 3 years now, and it's been a number of factors that I think I've figured in. Paul and Tom, using them as examples, had served a number of times as chair, and they were sort of exempt, it seemed. And that was it wasn't a formalized process. It was more that it was just out of respect to them. And I think that made sense to all of us, really. And then I do think among the people who might be eligible to be chair, there are people who might say, oh, sure, if that's something you want to have filled, I'd be happy to serve, fine. Or might be willing, more eager and willing to chair. Whereas other people may not feel comfortable, may not have the time, all of those things. There's one more factor. Oh, the other fact that I was going to say is that we decided last year to have you be in the seat a second year. And that was agreeable to everyone. So I think, we have people who turn over on the board, so it's really hard to keep track of quote unquote seniority. We have people come in for a couple of years and move away or, leave the board because, like, for example, Walter became the moderator. There's a lot of different things that just feed into how long someone's been around. And so I think it's a little more flexible than just saying, the person who's been on the board the most years is kind of like next in line to the throne, would be the person to fill in. So that's why I think actually the nomination process is a really great chance to throw out names of people that people think are a good idea and go from there.
Okay. Who
Aaron?
was that? Aaron.
I'd like to make a counterpoint to Bonnie and agree with what Peter said, that I think it's very useful to have that year as a vice chair to prepare for the job of chairmanship. And that's a fairly regular order type thing. What I fear we're descending into here is a kind of factionalism where we're going to start trying to pick favorites each and every year and have people lobbying and talking behind the scenes about trying to raise votes and things. Whereas, again, I'll say it again, this should be the easiest thing we do all year. It's very simple. Steve was vice chair, he should be chair. Amy is the longest serving member who has not served as vice chair or chair. She should be the vice chair, and we should know where we're going this year and beyond, and not be having any kind of contentious votes, arguments, or debates about who should be chair and who should not, and we should not be voting in somebody to be chair who's not yet served as vice chair and is putting their feet to the fire, with zero preparation for it. Not zero prep. I mean, we've all been on the committee, but without that, what I think those of you who have served, I've not yet, but I think all of you would agree that the time you spent as vice chair prepared you for the chairmanship to some extent greater than just being a member of the committee. And I'd like us all to just kind of function simply like that as a single unified committee and not be disrupting what should be a very normal, simple process.
Mr. Chairman?
Bonnie?
I honestly wasn't thinking of it as contentious. I was thinking of it as people throwing out ideas and an opportunity to have discussion, just like any other discussion we have here. So, that was not my intention in nominating Amy. If
Understood.
Yeah, and if it in turn turns into, Amy may say, no, thank you. And that would be her prerogative, and Steve may as well. That would be his prerogative. It doesn't mean, because, like you said, there's not these side conversations, like we're having this conversation right now, and so anyone that thinks that someone else could serve in that position is welcome to raise that point, as well as all the points that you've raised. So I, just for the sake of conversation, thought that it was worth saying that.
Bonnie, would you be satisfied if I amended my statement to say we should avoid the potential for contention by maintaining a regular order?
I don't even see it as contention, but I really don't. I see it as conversation, just like every other conversation. But I understand where you're coming from. But I think the conversation should happen. I mean, it's only once a year. Why not? It's going to affect all of us for the year. So it's not personal, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay. Okay. So we're still kind of still at this point where we have two names right now for chair, Steve and Amy. So is there any further discussion, especially from Zach, Kevin, Paula, maybe on, on what has been said so far? Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Bonnie?
Sorry, Paula, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, okay.
I'll just be brief so that I've already spoken, so that you can speak. Would we be able to hear from Steve or from Amy about whether or not they're interested? I mean, that would be maybe a key point to all of this.
Good point.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was just going to say two things. One, same as Bonnie, I was interested to hear what Steve and Amy would have to say about it. And two, as a very, very new FinCom member, I wasn't really sure of the routine you had, and I just thought Amy would bring some new ideas, so that's why I second his nomination.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
since you called me out, I thought I might say something.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
No, it's fine. I think, one of the things that I just personally generally have an issue with is sort of the automatic, is automatic anything. So I think, if we're going to, it's funny because I was thinking that this was a position that someone would want. However, it sounds like in a lot of cases, people don't want it. But the way that I look at it is that, I try to look at things as, who's the best person for the job. So if there's a way of determining who's the best person for the job, I think that should guide how the process works. So, that's difficult, for someone like me or Zach or Paula, who haven't been here very long.
Yep.
You know, but certainly, I was thinking along the same lines as Bonnie and Paula. You know, if we could hear from, if we could put forth nominations and then have each person give a couple of seconds on why they want to be the chair, if they even do. I think that would go a long way to helping me decide, you know, how I would go for the next chair. So that's all I guess.
Chairman,
Mike,
the procedure should be, if you don't have any more nominations, there should be a motion to close nominations, a second, and you should vote on that before you move forward with anything else.
okay. Okay. Just to like Kevin and Aaron's point, there is something to be said for sitting in the vice chairman's seat for a year, to get a little more of the inner workings of everything that the chair will eventually have to deal with. But okay, so if there are no further nominations, as Mike just suggested, can I have a motion to at least close the nomination?
Will there be opportunity for further discussion and questions
On,
beyond, before a vote is taken, once we close nominations?
well, to the end of hearing from like Amy and Steve? Is that what you mean? Or
Will we have opportunities to ask questions? Yeah.
Yeah.
I make a motion to close nominations.
Second.
who was that?
Zach.
Okay, so I have a motion from Aaron and a second from Zach to close the nominations. Any further discussion? Hearing none, go to the vote on this. Amy,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Peter, Peter,
Peter.
I'm unmute, yes.
thank you. Steve,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so that's unanimous. Okay, so can we just have, Amy and Steve, we'll go ladies first, indicate whether they even want the position, and then go from there if there are, questions from that. So Amy?
Sure. I think want might be a strong word, but I'd be willing to do it if the group felt that they wanted me to do so. I'm not sure what everybody wants to hear from me. It's a little weird to just off the cuff come up with something, but
Well, that you're willing to do it and you're not just sitting there going, no way, and you know what. So,
no, I'm willing to do it if that is what the group decides they would like.
okay, Steve?
Yep. I appreciate the nomination. It is something that we're willing to do. I think in the last 2 years, we've made some positive steps to move forward with the budget process. I think there's a lot more to go. And seeing those inner workings from the vice chair position, I think it's important to have learned those for the last 2 years, kind of being tutored under Bill's wing, if you will, to see how that process works and to know the different parties that are involved, different reports, and how to get things done. So it is something I think we can do. I think we can move forward and get more on a unified front. I think just like we're doing here, conversation is key. And it's one of those things that I always appreciate is good conversation. Let's really bruise one another in our meetings and come out as a unified front. I think that's what we need to do, but the conversation has to happen at all of our meetings. And that's one of the things that I will make sure that happens if I am nominated as chair.
Awesome. So, any further discussions from the group at large?
Question?
Yes?
This is Aaron. Hi. My question's for Steve. So, Steve, you were nominated as chair. Would you maintain what I think has been sort of, again, there's some, would you name Amy as, or would you request or nominate Amy as your vice chair as the longest serving person who hasn't been in yet?
I would do that. I feel confident. I mean, that's a good process, Aaron, that you brought up. It's kind of a middle of the road. I think that makes sense. Or I think anyone on the group, to your point, I think the longest tenured person should have that ability. It's a learning process for all of us. It's not just chair and vice chair. I think it's everyone on the committee to know how that process works. And I think for everyone to get that seat, it only makes our process stronger and our group stronger. So yes, I would. A long-winded way of saying, Aaron, yes, I would.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'd just like to say to the rest of the members of the committee that, I think you know where I'm coming down on this. The closest thing to the sort of regular order that I've been asking for all along would be Steve as chair and Amy to be his vice chair. And it should be obvious where we're headed after that. And that makes these things very simple moving forward.
I hear you. I'm not 100% sure what obvious moving forward means because it's not obvious to me. But, with that said, now, I guess, again, we have to go to a vote. So,
Just call a vote, Bill. Just call it.
yeah. Well, I'm trying to, trying to figure it out. So the first nomination was for Steve. So I guess I got to back up. Does this have to be unanimous, or how does this work, Mike?
You should just take a roll call and ask each member who they want to vote for chairman.
That's easy. All right.
Chairman?
Who was that?
Bonnie.
Bonnie, yes.
I seem to remember when we did this process before, Paul suggesting that after we vote, if we have it divided, like say it's 6-3 or whatever the numbers are, then we vote again, and then everyone votes for the person who gathered the most votes, so then it's unanimous. So that we do have that united front.
Yes, I think it's usually what we do. Usually it's not one of the person that wants it.
I didn't necessarily understand that a year ago, and I was okay with a divided vote, but whatever. So I guess to Mike's point, I'm just going to do a roll. I would assume I don't have to do it for Amy or Steve. I guess the assumption is you're going to say yourself. So, Aaron,
There we go. Steve.
Zach,
Amy.
Peter,
Steve,
Rick,
Steve,
Paul,
Amy.
Kevin,
Amy.
Bonnie,
Amy.
I'm going to make this difficult because I kind of like where Aaron was going, and I was going to try to go down that route myself, where the chair should be someone who had a little exposure to it, and the vice chair could be someone new. So I'm gonna kind of side with Steve, which gives us a tie vote. So that's not gonna.
You didn't have Steve or Amy vote, did you?
I did not, because I assumed they would vote for themselves. But I can figure it out now. Amy,
I think in the interest of moving things forward, I'm going to vote for Steve.
okay.
Amy, I think you'll make a great
Steve,
vice
if
chair.
you vote for Amy, I swear to God.
I'm coming through this computer at you, Steve, if you vote for me.
I want to see how far you're gonna go, Bob. I think it's something interesting. I thought we'd have to actually abstain, to be honest, from the vote, but.
Take this and run with it, Steve.
What's that?
Take this and run with it.
Bill, do you vote?
Steve.
Or do you, are you?
I voted for Steve, which makes
Oh, you did.
aye.
Right.
So that Amy voted for Steve, but Steve, we might as well hear from you.
No, I said to move it forward, I'll take it on my Steve.
Okay. So, in the interest of a united front, do we revote it?
Mr. Chairman, I think we should after we submit the matter of the vice chairmanship.
Can you do that without closing out can start a second motion without closing the first one? I didn't think so.
you're gonna trust Steve.
Yeah.
I think Steve already made it pretty clear what he was going to do.
I
Yeah.
vote Steve.
So I think we have to close this out to then move forward to the next thing, which then I'm out of it altogether anyway. So, I guess a motion and a second to revote it.
I'll make a motion to revote.
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion was from Peter, second was from
Aaron.
Aaron. Okay, awesome. So, motion and a second to revote. I guess revote chairman as Steve. I guess that's how I word it. Amy,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes, Steve.
Zach,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes, Steve.
Steve.
I think I have to abstain, right?
Okay. Rick,
Steve, yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Okay. Kevin,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. And that at 7:21, my reign of terror is officially over. Steve, take it away.
Bill, thank you. Looking forward to, yeah, hopefully we'll move this along, so, I'll take nominations for the vice chair. Or do I have to make the actual recommendation? I think,
Can I nominate Amy Sawyer as vice chair?
Second.
Second,
I seconded. Bonnie.
okay.
hey, Steve, it's all you.
Second, any other conversations on this? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion. All those in favor of Amy as vice chair? I'll do the roll call. Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
And Paula?
Yes.
That's unanimous. So Amy, welcome to the vice
you.
position on the FinCom. I just hope this isn't a sign of what we have coming forward. It's gonna take us a lot to make decisions, but I love the conversation. So some good points, some good counterpoints. I think we can make this process stronger going forward, so it doesn't take this amount of time. I think everyone has input on that. So Mike, with that said, now that we have the reorganization complete, I'll turn it over to you to kind of go through, the articles. And
To make your night a little longer, hopefully it won't take as long, you need to vote to designate, or if there's a volunteer, to become the Capital Improvement Committee representative.
do we feel confident that we all know what's involved with the capital committee to designate somebody now? I know I've had a couple of committees now that we have people designated to, so do we feel confident as a committee to approve somebody, or somebody wants to step forward and be a volunteer? I think Peter, you've been in that role.
I've been the last couple of years, so I'll do it again, but someone else is welcome to as well. Pretty straightforward.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
can I ask Peter how much time or how often it needs?
Sure. Yes.
What's the time, commitment to this?
Minimal, usually before our FinCom meetings. If we meet at 7, it's at 6 o'clock usually. Minimal time. Mike usually has most stuff prepared. Small committee. 4 people? Generally, Mike, I think 4 people. 5 with you.
A representative of the Finance Committee, the Planning Board, the schools, myself, and selectmen, right? Am I right? 5?
Yep, I think that's right, yeah.
I think I also asked any of the new members, just saying for this conversation that we had about the senior roles on the committee, is anyone interested for the newer people? So Paula, Zach, Kevin, and Bonnie. I know Bonnie, you're on another committee, so I understand, but is anyone else interested in this role?
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
I just would need to know what's involved, really. I mean, I don't know what any of these other subcommittees do. Obviously, capital improvement, I guess they're working on the capital budget every year. But I heard the time commitment, but I'm not sure what else is involved and how many meetings. Is it every finance committee meeting, or is it a couple times a year? Or?
No, it's what? Mike, how many, Mike?
Is it usually around 5, Peter?
Yeah, sounds about right. 5 or 6 meetings. You get to see all the fire and the police come forward with their requests for new equipment. It's all about usually something that's going to cost us over $30,000. So you got fire trucks for 4 or 5 years, police cars, and, allocating them money and seeing where it's best spent. It's interesting, and it's not a lot of prep work. Mike usually has, and the fire department will have paperwork that you read through, during the meeting.
Well, if Bill, you're not interested in it, I'll do it if anybody wants it though, but it's all yours. But if nobody wants it, I'll do it.
And I think from that perspective too, Zach, it brings a discipline to the capital improvement from a FinCom member, kind of that funding. So it brings discipline as the entire budget comes through. So I think that helps us as well. So I don't know if anyone else, I didn't hear from anyone else except for Zach. So I want to make sure that I understand that Zach's the only one interested.
Bill, not you?
Zach, I'm gonna kind of pass, given the new job. Maybe next year will work out better, but I'm okay if you take it if Peter doesn't want it.
I nominate Zach.
Second?
Do we actually need a vote on this, Mike? I didn't think we did.
No, you can just appoint him.
Okay. So Zach, with nobody else speaking up, I'm going to appoint you as the FinCom representative for the Capital Improvements Committee. Thank you very much for accepting that responsibility.
Thank you.
And with that, looks like the next item on the agenda is the financial update. So
Yeah,
Mike,
just, as you've seen, the free cash certification is in, and, free cash was certified at $2,877,433. And that is made up of unused free cash from the previous year of $196,169. Appropriations that were unused and turned back of $1,921,787.57, and revenue receipts that came in above expectations, $479,750. And I can just show you here my screen here. So if you can see that, the turnbacks, obviously this year there was a lot of things that didn't happen because of COVID. We obviously had other expenses that are being covered under, a lot of it covered under the CARES fund. But so these are the turnbacks: general government, which is function 1, $280,551.42. Public safety, $313,898.51. Education, which is function 3, $246,748.02. Function 4, public works and facilities, $43,726.52. Function 5, human services, $52,410.32. Function 6, culture and recreational, $3,339.45. Function 7, debt service, $52,669.87. And function 9, which is miscellaneous, which covers gasoline, it covers our insurances, health insurance, and all the town side and school side insurances. And there's the total turnbacks, the $1,921,787.57. And
does anyone have any questions on the turnbacks for departments?
I do. I do, Mr. Chairman.
Right, Peter?
So Mike, is this a normal turn back 1.9 million, or is this higher than normal?
This is higher than normal. And, you know, our receipts, obviously, the above expectations are below normal. And our free cash certification is the lowest it's been since 2016. And in your packet, you have the receipts for the end of the year. If you look at that, you can see obviously the last 3 months of the year are below what they were the previous year. So we met with the finance team today, and we're looking at our projections for local receipts for this current year, FY21, for the October meeting, and we'll be reviewing that and come back to you next week with that.
And Mike, on a little bit more breakdown on what were the categories for general government, public safety?
What makes up those categories?
Or the bulk? What's the bulk of that? Is it?
So these are the functions that I was talking about. Let me go up. So under function one, you can see all the departments that come under that function.
It's not sharing, Mike?
Oh, it's not? Okay. Give me a second.
And Mike, maybe what we can do is next meeting, if we could share that detail with the committee, so we have that.
Yep. Okay.
Save a little time. I know we're kind of running up against it a little bit, but it's something to know. And then my other question, I did see in the licensing fees, you know, I think it was an 800,000 variance. Is that the Blue Star project that drove a lot of those fees? I know L9 was in the past.
Under licenses and permits, that would be.
Right. My only other question is, were you surprised by this turn back number? Were we expecting more with COVID and not utilizing facilities and travel?
Well, as I said, it's the largest we've had in a while. You know, so it didn't surprise us because we knew a lot of things weren't happening and there would be turnbacks.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Zach.
Mike, what was, just so we have a perspective here, what was the turnbacks roughly last year, FY19 versus FY20? You don't have to be exact, roughly. Was it half this, or was it?
I don't remember that. I'll get that. I can get that for you.
Hello?
James, the town accountant may have that.
Yeah, we usually receive between $800,000 to $1 million a year in turnbacks. That's around the average for the last 5 years.
Okay, so we got basically another $1 million in turnbacks. I'm not sure if that's good or bad with, basically town being shut down for 6 months with into schools. Not busing kids, not cleaning, not heating buildings, town hall being closed, the council and agent being closed. Basically, other than the police and fire department, I know people were working from home, I know people were getting paid, and I know they paid teachers and everything else. But I would think that would be a larger number on a $40 million budget. My 2 cents.
Yeah, the bulk of the savings in town hall would have been from not paying employees, and everybody was getting paid. My office was open the whole time. The treasurer collector's office was open the whole time. There were a few offices that were open throughout the whole pandemic, if you want to call it that. The police and fire, obviously, they're 24-hour operation. They did not close. I was expecting a little bit more turnbacks from the school, but it is what it is. and like I said, the older ones you have to pay most of the budget for the town departments are salaries, and everybody was getting paid.
Has the schools given you an accounting of their turnbacks or their budget for the COVID shutdown?
All we received was the 200 and change back at the end from their $30 million budget. That's basically what we received. But I do not have a breakdown of that since they get a number. Their budget is 30 million. So there is not really a breakdown of that. I mean, they have a breakdown. The business manager has a breakdown of 30 million on how they plan on expending it, but they can use it for any item. So it's kind of hard to say exactly what was it that they turned back.
So, Mr. Chairman, am I the only one in this committee that sees a red flag here?
No, in fact, what I wanted to discuss too is from that perspective, if any one of the new members saw James's monthly report, his monthly management report, did everyone see that? Zach, did you see that?
I hadn't gone through it. I have it right here on my desk, but I haven't gone through it in detail.
So one of the items, I just wanted to make sure you got it. So one of the items that we've asked the schools for is a very similar report on a monthly basis that for some reason we haven't gotten yet. So I will reach out to the schools again to make sure we get that, because I think that's going to help with some of the comparisons to see where they are. And it is a little bit more detailed, but the expectation is a little bit more detailed, so we can see what accounts are running over, what accounts are running under, potential trends as the year goes by with the monthly. So that is something that we should get automatically. I know we had talked about that in the past, but I thought we were supposed to be getting it, but to date we haven't gotten it. So my reach would be the monthly report and the June 30, the final numbers for the year for the schools, so we can see that information.
Mr. Chairman, Darren.
Darren?
One thing that I think might have led us to hope for a bigger turnback from the schools that never materialized was busing, and the fact that we're in a contract with a group of other schools that voted to pay the busing contract because there was some dispute between them and the busing company over whether they were contracted to provide busing if needed, or whether it was pay per ride type thing. And I think if I remember the explanation from the school department from this correctly, is that they voted to not pay that portion of the contract, but the people with whom we are in that contract with voted to pay it. Does that ring a bell to anybody else?
No, it does. And thank you. That's exactly one of the reasons we look at some of these reports, so we could ask those questions, Aaron, and see what's in there. But I do remember that basically they were paying for the transportation even though they weren't utilized based on contract.
It was the contract for the Bi-County Collaborative Transportation, I believe, that does not all, but a lot of the special education kind of one-off transportation places outside of the district. That is our financial responsibility.
Yeah, I watched Amy one of the school committee meetings, and Dr. Baeta was in negotiations with them. He was insisting he wasn't going to pay it. So I don't know what finally transpired. That's why it'd be nice to see those records.
Yep. Thank you, guys. We'll reach out and request those. And Mike?
Yep.
Well, from that perspective, can you make sure in the minutes, if anything's requested, if you can put the request list at the beginning of the minutes so we can keep track and then follow up as each meeting goes on? Is that something that we can do?
Wouldn't say that you want to have that on the next agenda.
No, not the agenda, but on the actual minutes.
Okay.
What to see is if we request information,
Yeah.
we'll request it from whom, and then have it on the minutes until we get the information we request. So it's
Okay.
for minutes.
Yep.
Thank you.
And the next item is a couple of fall town meeting articles. The first is there's an article for a household hazardous waste day to appropriate money for that. And I know the health agent, I believe, is on tonight, and he can talk on that. Chris?
Yes, thank you, and good evening. Congratulations, Steve and Amy. So typically, pre-COVID, we were doing an annual hazardous waste day, and it's been a great event for the people of Norton to be able to get rid of all those excess paints and oils and such at their homes. It's been very much missed this year. I've been getting tons of phone calls asking if we're still having it even though we have COVID. But unfortunately, between our decision to not move forward with it as well as Clean Harbors is not feeling comfortable about it, we did have to put it off. But we are hoping that this pandemic has relaxed to the point where we can have one next year. So we're looking forward to the spring and hoping that we can get one in sometime in May. So this is why we're trying to appropriate the money. Typically, the Clean Harbors bill runs around $7,000. And they basically take most of the materials. We also have a police detail on site because we'll have Walgreens there to accept the prescription medications. And so we have a police detail there just to keep a security on that for controlled substances. We pay the Board of Health staff overtime for the Saturday event. It's typically 2 to 3 staff members. It's about $400 to $500 for the day. And then the advertising that we would put in the newspaper, we generally will run an ad in the Sun Chronicle at least twice. We found that has been beneficial over the years to get the word out there, as well as we use the Norton Alerts, and we'll use the local digital boards and such as well. But we have found that the advertising in the Sun Chronicle has helped us out greatly in the past. That generally runs around $400. So we're looking at just over $8,000, and then we have a contingency. So about a 20% that we put in, because the more vehicles we get, the more money Clean Harbors ends up costing. We want to make sure we can cover that expense. So we're looking at around $9,800. So we requested $10,000 to be sure we could cover. Any money that's left over, we would just push towards the next event. Thanks, Chris. Does anyone on the committee have any questions for Chris?
Chris, is there a fee for the residents to drop something off, or is it?
No, it's free for the Norton residents.
Do they take like televisions? I know that's a big thing I see on social media.
So yes, what we do is we work in conjunction with the highway department. So anything that Clean Harbors won't take, generally the highway department will, and it may have a small fee for it for something like a TV. I want to say like a $30 fee, but we would have the drive-through for hazardous waste day going out around the highway department building so that they could take care of the TV for you right there in the same place. And again, it's usually got a small fee of about $30, I believe. And I think the only thing that we run into problems with disposing of is fire extinguishers, and I'm working on that with a couple of local companies to see if they'll help us with that.
Okay, and on prescription drugs, I was, last I knew, there was a box inside the police station to drop those off anytime you want. That's still there, I believe, correct?
Correct. And that's essentially where it ends up going. But we still have a lot of seniors that look forward to this day. And that really isn't, aside from the police detail, it's really not a major cost to us. The prescriptions end up going up to that box eventually.
In the answer to Zach's question, Mr. Chairman, on the TVs and other items like that, the highway has a drop-off. You can pay. If anyone has any questions, they can go on to the Public Works Department website, and there's a list of items that they'll take and what the fees are.
And I believe they're open every second and fourth Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, Mike. Any other conversation? Does the committee feel we're in a position to vote on this article tonight? Mike?
I was just gonna say, if you want to just get information tonight and, we'll review all the finances and vote on articles at a later time.
No, that's fine. So when's the cut date? When do we need to get all of our approvals in?
So the town meeting is, October 17th. So everything, should be done by your October 5th meeting.
Okay, so we do have a little time, not much, but okay. All right, thank you.
And the other article that was originally on the article list was, from the health department, was a WPAT administrative costs. They don't need any money for that this year, so that article's been pulled.
Okay.
The next person that's here tonight to discuss some items is the Conservation Commission agent, Jennifer Carlino. And I believe Jennifer is on.
Hi, everyone.
Jennifer, thank you for waiting patiently. Appreciate
Oh,
it.
no worries. It was fascinating conversation. So we do have a number of things that we've submitted, and I will say that most of these came from residents. So, we understand finances are, can be very tight, but residents have brought these items to us, and so we said we would bring them forward, and if they're recommended and voted, that's wonderful. But I wasn't comfortable telling people I wouldn't even bring the articles forward, just for consideration. So I do have a PDF that I can put up. I don't know if do I have the ability to do that? Do you need to make me a host, or I can just do it?
You should be able just to share your screen.
Okay. It usually takes me 2 tries to do this for some reason, so. You're in. Okay, so are you still looking at like a memo?
We're looking at,
My file.
yeah, if you click
Okay.
on the presentation.
Yep, it doesn't work that way for some reason. I actually have to do it twice. So now that I've done it once, it should come up. So just let me know if you see a memo.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So you'll see we have a number of them. So I'm going to scroll through because I think on your agenda, the first one is the Water Bodies Master Plan. Is that correct?
Yep, and then it looks like it's Article 12 on our list.
I don't have the article numbers. I'm just going by your agenda. So that's the first one on there. So that's how I arranged the PDF. So I'll scroll down to that. Okay, and so the first one is for creating a master plan for boat access, water bodies access. This is something that the Water Bodies Committee and a lot of residents have brought to the Conservation Commission, and most of it is a butter and multi-user conflicts, and we're trying to resolve that. So around the reservoir, those are very small lots where people are trying to launch boats, and there's just a lot of conflicts there. So we're trying to alleviate that problem before next spring. We met out at Juniper Road with residents, Water Bodies Committee, police, fire. Mike was there, Highway was there, and we thought maybe the best way to do that is for the town to start designating official boat launch properties. And so then that would give us uniform parking, uniform signage. People would actually know where they're allowed to put in a motorboat or just a car top access. It should help alleviate a lot of the problems that abutters are having next to these boat ramp areas. And so we would be looking for some technical assistance from our regional planning agency. And we received a grant, or we received an estimate from them. And so I'm going to just scroll down again a little bit. Right now, I do have a sheet like this for each property. And so I'm thinking the master plan would look like this with the basic information that, you know, people can find, a map. There should be a map of the parking area, and any other information people need. Here are some of the locations. So it's not just the reservoir, but we're trying to make sure that it's uniform throughout the town. And this is listed in our open space and recreation plan. So we'd be looking at trying to get a designated parking area for all the water bodies and for most of our rivers. Just a draft plan. So right now, the water bodies, the master plan, if we get technical assistance from our Southeast Regional Planning and Economic Development District, they gave me an estimate of $19,600. I've already applied for a grant for $10,000 from the Taunton River Stewardship Committee. I should hear about that in the next couple of weeks. Serpide had mentioned that $3,500 could be available through the municipal assistance hours through Serpide, but that has to be designated by the selectmen, I believe, and so we would just need to see if that money is available, and then that would cut another $3,500 off there. We would also need to do some property surveys, and I'm just suggesting 4 parcels around the reservoir for this fiscal year. My estimate is about $2,500 for each parcel. You've got to do deed research. Some of the properties around where we're using as boat launch areas have beach rights. You know, we're not really sure what that means, and we can't put in parking and lines and signs for people to park if we don't know the actual property boundaries, and so that's pretty important. So the total estimated cost is the $29,600. We're hoping for $13,500 in grants and or municipal assistance, and so the end cost would end up being $16,1000. I did get Serpide's estimate. You know, there might be some things in here that could be removed, and so I can contact them tomorrow and just see if this is, you know, the gold standard of, you know, boat access plans, and if there are things that we might be able to cut out of there. But these were the estimates I received initially. And we do have an agreement with Division of Fisheries and Game to make the boat area on Mansfield Ave an official designated boat launch area. And so we'll be working that into the overall plan for how to access our water bodies and waterways. I also, there's no problem with making the article say that spending any of the money is contingent on receiving grants. That's typical of what we do for most of our conservation projects. And so if you think that is appropriate or that helps, I'm more than happy to revise the article that way.
Jennifer, so the funding is Article 20, right? Mike, on the town warrant?
Going to it now.
That's what it looks like to me too.
Article 20.
Yes.
And Jennifer, the documentation that you're providing now is strictly for Article 20. It doesn't get into Article 21 at all, correct?
Is 21 the bylaw? I don't have the number. I'm sorry.
21 is the bylaw change.
Okay. Correct. Yep. The funding article the funding is just for Article 20.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone on the committee have any questions for Jennifer at this time?
Is there anything you would like me to copy and provide you that you don't already have?
Does anyone need any additional information? I know the mapping would help, Jennifer, if you could provide that to the committee. You showed up.
Sure. this is a PDF. I can give you the whole PDF if you like. So you'll have all the articles right in the one thing.
I think we have the articles listed here, it's just the mapping, I think. So we have the articles in the warrant here listed out. I think the mapping is what we don't have. Kind of show you designated areas.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I would agree that we'd want to modify the article to, say, we're not gonna appropriate it. It's not, however we word that.
I agree. I think it makes perfect sense to be clear to the townspeople what the expectations are. So,
I have no problem with that.
great, thank you. Anything else, members? All right, Jennifer, I heard nothing, so if you want to go to the next,
Okay. Okay, so the next one is the existing boats and waterways bylaw. And coming out of the discussion with the abutters, they had requested some changes. And so I'm just going to scroll through. It's in track changes, so we'll just stop where we see red. And so section 2413, we're just changing it to select board. I went too far ahead, I'm sorry. It looks like I'm missing a page. I think I'm missing missed a page in the copy machine. Okay, but 2413 is just changing from Board of Selectmen to Select Board. There's a new section that we added, and it talks about the Select Board may designate town land to be a designated boat launch area, so it kind of goes with the previous article. And that would help the police be able to enforce this bylaw if they know it's a designated area and we have the signs. Residents have asked that the hours be corrected. Some of the existing signage doesn't match the bylaw, and it used to say half hour before sunset to a half hour before sunrise, and residents had asked that we put actual times. The fire department had asked that we restrict fires, and so no fires at any of the boat launch areas or the islands on the reservoir, so we're adding that. And the boat launch type for the designated areas, just car top or motorized. And because we added a new one, it changed some of the other numbers below it. So I am missing one page, and that is for section 24-5 called nighttime operation. And that's where it says the half hour before sunrise to half hour to the sunset, and we changed that to 10 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
I think our written draft has it in there, Jennifer.
Oh, you do? Okay, good.
I was gonna say, yeah, we have it.
Okay.
All right, Peter, I think I heard you had a question?
Yeah, Jennifer, this doesn't preclude someone from launching a kayak from their own property, their own kayak, right?
That's correct. Nope,
Okay.
does not preclude that.
Does any,
Mr. Chairman?
you have questions? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
So, Jennifer, just one question. I can see that in the changes you outlined that conservation land can't be used as an access point. So I'm wondering if that includes Edith Reed, because I know that I've never launched a canoe or a kayak back there, but I can see why somebody might want or try to.
Can you just give me which section you're talking about so I can go there and make sure I answer you correctly?
Sure, just this access section 24 or 14 where it says the select board can designate town land except conservation land.
Correct. Okay, so The only reason we put it in that way is because the Conservation Commission, under Chapter 40, Section 8C, can create rules and regulations for their properties. And so
Okay.
Conservation Commission does allow boat launching from conservation properties. So it's just a designation that Select Board can designate town land, and Conservation Commission is done separately through the Conservation Commission, just to keep the state law correct.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I'm not sure if we want to clean the language up a little bit so this indicates that, just because the average person reading the boating bylaw might not necessarily know that for conservation land they need to go look at the conservation bylaw.
Sure.
Any other discussion?
Okay.
So Jennifer, I think you have one more.
Okay, so your agenda says capital improvements. So we do have, you're looking at the capital improvement for Edith Reed.
Yes,
That's correct? Okay.
that's the last two pages on our packet.
Okay. We, as you know, we've been working to improve the lodge quite a bit, and we've received a number of grants and a lot of donations, but we have now gone through the capital funding that we had received when we first purchased the property. And so we have the heating system installed, but we do need to put in insulation and a ceiling. And then once we have that finished, the inside of the building should be ready for meeting space and for people who want to camp in the area to get inside to use the bathroom.
Mr. Chairman?
And I think, sorry, Jennifer, just one thing, sorry, Peter, it looks like there's an update to the final, so in our packet,
Yep.
the carpentry work was to be determined, it looks like it says 10-5,
Correct. I just got that estimate this afternoon.
okay, for total cost of, like, is it 25,392.77?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's the change from the information we got earlier. So
Yeah, it just came in today. I just had two people look at it on Monday, and this was the fastest they could get their estimates to me.
Okay, thank you. Peter, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably a typo, but what is a hatch for hearing?
Oh, heating.
Hey, that's what I was guessing, but I wanted to make sure.
You're right. So they need to be able to construct something so you can get up into the new ceiling to take care of the heating system and regular maintenance.
Okay.
So they have to build a hatch or steps or something to be able to get up into the attic.
So it won't be vaulted like it was before, there'll be a ceiling.
Correct. There will be a ceiling that'll help us save on the heating costs. Instead of heating the vaulted area, we'll just be heating the room that people actually use.
Jennifer, just one quick question. What's the overall plan for usage? I know since we purchased the property, the house down, they did a little bit of work on the front, but the gates have been locked, and it looks like walking paths only right now. So is there a plan for future use? I know you're renting and things like that.
There is. We've been working a lot. So the inside, we've had in the past, since we purchased the property, students from Southeast Regional have come in and done some carpentry and plumbing work for us. We've had a number of different volunteer groups from Wheaton and Alnylam and some regular open space committee volunteers go in and paint the inside and the outside of the lodge. We had a window replaced. Some of the pavilions needed to be braced. So that's been done. The heating system went in. The parking lot. So there'll be a parking lot out front for people to use during the day. And then if they have rented the lodge for camping, for scouts or for meeting space, then we'll have a new gate. They'll be able to go into the back and park at the parking lot near the lodge and use the facilities there. We received a cable access grant, so the inside of the building will be suitable for PowerPoint presentations. They'll have a screen and be able to project onto the wall. We've been working on a number of educational displays to put inside the building. There's been a lot of work going on. So the parking lot is mostly done through donations and through the highway department. And so that actually should be happening within the next couple of weeks. You may have seen all the pavement pulled up. But right now people can park there. Lots of people walk the property. Looks like for about a half hour or so, they do a nice walk through there. All kinds of people are fishing, just walking dogs, they're hiking. We have another Girl Scout who's contacted us about doing some trail work and a bunch of signage at all of the trails, a small boardwalk in the back in the two areas where they have to cross a little bit of a swampy area. The fire pits have been donated by a resident. It's really pulling together, but some things, we do have to try to budget, the money for. So I think once we get the ceiling finished, then we can turn the water back on and have our inspections done, and then we can start using it for meeting space.
So going forward, the game plan is somewhat still two gates. So people that are using the camping area will have a separate parking area, but they use it for walking trails and still park out where that, I'll call it the pavement is today in front of that big gate. Okay.
Correct. We had an engineer do a schematic parking area for us, and so there'll be about 20 parking spaces out front, just in the existing area that we have now. And that, the monster gate will come down and it'll just be a swing gate. We have a cultural council grant, so we're looking for some sculpture and some walking paths from the parking lot to the lodge eventually.
What's the projection for revenue once it all gets up and running, annual revenue for the property? Any idea?
That I don't know. We're working out the cost for people to be able to rent it for their meeting space. From what I've seen and what I've used other campgrounds, it's usually, $25 for a campsite per night. But I think once we start moving, it'll get a lot of use.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Jennifer? No. So hearing none, Jennifer, thank you. Unless you have anything else to add, thank you very much.
I don't. I just want to recap my action items. So I'm going to send you this PDF that you saw tonight on the screen, and then we'll modify the article so that it says, provided we get grants. And then you asked for cleaning up the language on the bylaw, so just so it's clear that conservation land and that the select still designate town land. Yeah, okay. Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all.
Have a great night.
You too.
And
All right. So, So Mike, it looks like the next item on the agenda is the town report submission.
Right, so before Bill thinks he gets away, I think it's usually the previous chair that prepares that report for the finance committee.
So Mike, this
I thought we already did that.
sorry, this one still confuses me. How is this report different than the report we submit? I thought it was just almost a cut and paste, if you will, from the FinCom report, if you will, into a town meeting.
Well, your annual town you have for the year and different things like the grass. It's pretty much what you do is you can see from the previous year's report, and it's pretty much you just fill in information that was in the other years before that.
I thought it was almost one and the same. Sorry, Bill. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, yeah, I thought it was one and the same myself. So can someone send me last year's?
Sure, we'll email that to you.
And does the calendar on the town website, can I go back or does it kind of like fade away and not allow that?
No, you can go back, and if you have a problem, just let me know. We'll let you know all the dates.
Okay, awesome.
Is that all you have for tonight, Mike?
That's it. And
I know we have some minutes to go through if everyone's ready or willing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Bonnie.
I also have an update from the Permanent Building Committee, if you would like one. We deferred it from our last meeting, which was understandable since it was very late.
No, that's true. But definitely. I think it'll be
And
worth
a neat point.
Thank
I'm so sorry.
I suppose so.
Session tomorrow night with the select board to discuss more real estate type stuff, but they have 3 articles slated for the fall town meeting. Well, the assumption is that it will be the fall town meeting on October 17th to appropriate funds for the architectural study for the 2 properties that have been designated by the select board as the 2 properties they prefer. And have identified one on Mansfield Ave and one right next to Town Hall on East Main Street. The East Main Street property is for the new Town Hall, and the Mansfield Ave property is for the new Senior Center. One for the purchase of the East Main Street property and one for the purchase of Mansfield Ave. So they had a discussion about what monies are available. There's still money from the original feasibility study, about $2,500 there. There's still about 1.1 million from the Al Nilam project that was set aside. And then there's about $110,000 from the 2019 October town meeting. So there was some discussion about, like I said, the funds that would be necessary for the architect to study the 2 properties, and that's about $81,000. And they're going to be coming to a later meeting to discuss all of this, just so you all know. So I'm just kind of giving you the rough idea of what was discussed recently. And so it was discussed also what of this money property so that is basically the update, and there's also a working group that has been put together separate from the actual Permanent Building Committee to create flyers, to do the marketing basically for the project once all these numbers have been worked out. And that's basically it. So their next meeting is in October, beginning of October, but they, like I said, are going to be attending an executive session tomorrow night with the select.
Does anyone from the committee have any questions for Bonnie?
I have some comments. So I did watch one, I know you were there, I did watch part of that meeting on the YouTube. My personal position on it is, not that it matters, but is obviously the 3 projects are needed, and I fully personally support all 3 of them, and they're desperately needed. But I think they're going about it backwards. So we're going to purchase land that we don't know if we're going to get approval to bid on. So just think about that for a second, to build on it. So you're going to buy 2 pieces of land that have been on the market forever, that are not going anywhere. You're going to borrow from the town will be asked to borrow $750,000. The rest is in that kitty that you talked about. And then we're going to go to a vote at some point to build these, whatever it is, 30, 40 million dollar project. It should fail, and everybody here knows how difficult that vote's going to be. Should it fail, we now are on the hook for $750,000. We've lost the revenue of the 2 properties that we're currently collecting taxes on because they've now become municipal. And we still have a major problem at Town Hall and the Senior Center that you could be condemned at any time. So, we're here as stewards of the town. We treat that money, whether I worked in business or anywhere else, I always treated the money like it was my own. Would I do that in that order? No. I think they should be coming to the people and saying, this is our plan, not to exceed $40 million. Let's have a vote on it. But now you're going to put the town in a worse situation if this fails. Putting them in debt, losing the tax revenue on those 2 pieces of land, and still having a town hall and a senior center and the school fields in disarray. My 2 cents, I don't know how anybody else feels.
Well, thanks, Zach. Does anyone have anything else?
Do we know what the tax revenue is for the 2 properties?
I think Mike's not on the phone, so I will follow up on that. One of the things too I'm going to follow up is I thought the select board was going to give some information criteria on, I thought it was 3 or 4 different scenarios with the cost for each, something to the effect. Cost of doing nothing. I can't remember the other pools, but we can reach out and ask them for that information. To date, I haven't seen anything listed. I think, again, we want to make sure, as Zach said, we're the stewards of the town. We want to make sure we spell this out, completely, dollar cents, cost benefit, if possible.
Yeah, I go exactly. I don't know why we want to put articles on land when we're not know what we're going to put on it yet. So I agree. It ought to just be a whole all of us. Hey, here's the land we want. Here's what it's going to cost to build it, and one big package. You want to do it or not? I don't agree with buying land. Let's stick with it.
And I'm not.
Mr. Chairman?
Is that Amy?
Yeah, you go ahead first.
No, go ahead, Amy. Go ahead. I'm looking for. Yeah.
I was going to say that I agree with Zach and Peter. Also, in addition to the questions that they have, I have questions about the ongoing operational costs of buildings that are exponentially larger than the ones we're currently operating, and any logical person would expect that they're going to require more cleaning, more staffing, more heat and electricity, which all comes with a higher cost.
Fair?
Agreed. Bill?
Oh, yeah. So, here's the broken record again. I understand, let's just say that it's 30 or 40 million. It really doesn't matter what it is. Have we seen yet, and I'm going to say the answer is no, how 30, 40 million of debt service is going to impact the rest of our very fixed town budget? Have we seen that? I don't think we have. And to add that debt service, what are you taking away? Because something has to give, because our budget isn't gonna grow all that much. And, you know, to add to Zach and Amy and Kevin, and Peter, we're kind of doing this all backwards. And until we have the ability to show the town, this is how we're gonna pay for it, I don't know why we're playing this game. But I've been saying that for a couple of years on deaf ears, but whatever.
No, I think, Bill, you're hitting it spot on along with everybody else. It's kind of normal course of business. Until we start challenging and questioning these kind of things in a certain format, I think that's the way it's going. We have to look at it as, you know, I think 21 is going to be a very difficult year for us as far as budgets. I mean, we're probably going to see some of the revenue reductions, and we really have to get ourselves some kind of a plan on what the key projects are. To your point, what debts we have, what comes off. What are some of these items? And I know we've been talking about plans and projections for quite a while, and we have to start seeing that. Just to get this going, I think the residents feel the same way. I mean, we just went through potentially the issue with Reed and Barton. That didn't work, and now it seems it's a little different, but we're going about it the same way. Find property that we still don't know what we're going to use it for, if that makes sense. But I think, to everyone's point, I think we need to keep pushing and getting the information we request. So,
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Is there a plan? I guess I want to know if there's a plan to appropriate money to spend for the necessary improvements that have to be made right now to our current town hall and senior center. I know they're both unsafe. Because these new buildings, if they do happen, aren't going to be completed in like 3 or 4 years. So what do we do until then? And there needs to be money, I assume, to do the necessary repairs on our current buildings.
yeah, and Paul, thank you. That was exactly one of the other scenarios that the select board was supposed to work on. I don't know correct me if I'm wrong, any of the other members, I don't think we've seen any of that information, or maybe it's been presented, we're part of that yet, but I haven't seen it.
I saw one meeting where the number $8 million was thrown around to repair just the town hall. And that was a guesstimate from what I could understand.
Okay. So that will be a follow-up from tonight's meeting to request this information on one is what will it cost to bring the town hall up to a fully functioning office or building. And what was the other? So one is the town hall.
The debt service added.
Repairs. I have debt service on there. Was there any? I'll ask the select.
Operating costs.
What the criteria?
Amy mentioned the operating costs of the new building.
I thought they had 3 scenarios they were going to provide numbers for, and I don't remember, but I'll ask them for that. We can see when it can get to this committee the next.
Yeah, I do know that the permanent building committee asked to have some time in one of our meetings upcoming before October 17th. And so at some point Mike is gonna schedule them in, but you may wanna, if Mike is not listening now, I see his name, but I'm not sure if he's listening in. You may wanna just follow up with him to ask for this stuff in advance of their participation in our meeting.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one of the things we'll stress this year too, is the information has to be to us before any of the meetings. I know Bill did a good job on that. I think we just have to continue pressing on that so we can at least analyze it, look at it, and have questions when that body comes before us. I think that's important. And I was looking at the article. It is the select board, so I'll ask Mike on Article 17 and 18. Anything else? No, Bonnie, thank you very much for the update.
Sure, no problem.
So Bill, if there's nothing else on the agenda right now, I think, are the minutes in a fashion where you want to review those, or do you want to hold off for another meeting?
At this point, I don't even remember which minutes I forwarded. I thought they were the ones Amy did for the 10th.
That's correct.
And was that the only set?
That is all I have seen.
Okay, then, I would assume we could deal with these.
Okay.
I mean, the ones I talked about, which I'll have to go back onto the calendar to find out exactly when that July date was. Those minutes were all approved as amended, so I've amended them. I just I wasn't able to put in, the date of the vote because I couldn't remember. So those are all set. And therefore, we need to set a minute for that meeting. And I truly don't remember if anybody volunteered to take those minutes or not. I'm pretty sure someone did. And then we needed the minutes from right before the spring meeting on June 27th, which I have 90% done, so I'll send those to you for the next meeting.
So Bill, I'm just wondering if we might kind of volunteer the help of the town hall to catch up. I know you said for tonight, but maybe we can ask him if we can catch up with any of the minutes that are missing from the recordings. I think they would help us, and if these minutes are as important as people say, I think we've gotten big in the past from various public entities that we don't have them. So I think it's important that we figure out a way we can get the minutes done in a timely fashion. If that means utilizing the town hall, I think it makes better, because the biggest thing I see here, when we're doing, whoever takes the minutes, it's hard to participate in the meeting, as you mentioned earlier. So anything we can do to have all of our members participate in the meeting is key. Until we can get somebody that's going to fill in. It's been a struggle getting recording admin just for our committee. We've gone quite a bit without one. I think I'll talk to Mike and say if we can make that a permanent switch until we get somebody, and then also part of that task would be to catch up on any past minutes. So Bill, if you have that list of minutes that we're still missing or don't have, if you could forward that, and I can forward it to Mike and see if we can get those done in a timely fashion.
I think we're pretty much caught up.
Okay.
Again, except for June 27th, which was outdoors at the high school, so there is no recording of that. And then the July whatever date that I'll have to look up. I think those are the only two that are missing. So the June 27th, I can put together. The July, whatever that date was, is one we will need minutes for. And so Amy has provided the August 10th minutes. So I believe we're caught up.
Do we feel like we can review and vote on the August 10th minutes right now?
Why not?
I've read them.
Okay. Is it anyone else? So I heard from Aaron and I heard from Peter. Everyone else, you wrote them, so I know you're familiar with them.
I wrote them, so I read them too.
Yes, I read them.
Okay, one. Zach, are you okay with that? Kevin?
Yep.
Paula?
Yes.
I wasn't at this meeting, but I'll definitely look for typos, I suppose.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so then I think we should review the minutes as written. We might take a second, and then if we're ready, we can go for a vote on the 4 minutes.
I only just saw one typo, Mr. Chairman. In the section where Renee Deli is speaking, it just says brining instead of bringing.
Okay. Thanks.
Sorry, Miss Sawyer.
Was she roasting
Where
a turkey?
is that? Hold on,
Second.
I'll just search for Brining.
Do it.
It's the second
Got it.
sentence under Article 6.
Bringing, corrected.
Sorry? Everyone else is fine?
I'm nitpicky, do we want to get on grammar?
Not.
There's an O that's capitalized that doesn't need to be.
All right, so then I will entertain a motion for approval of the August 10th Finance Committee minutes as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
That was Peter, and who seconded? I think 3 or 4 people.
I think I was first. It's fine.
Okay. So Bonnie seconded. Any other conversation? In hearing none, we'll go to a vote. Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Rick? Rick? Aaron?
Sorry about that. I abstained.
Okay. Aaron?
Yes for Aaron.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Peter?
Aye.
And Paul, you said you were going to abstain as well. huh?
Abstain, yes.
Vote yes as well. So it looks like it's unanimous with 2 abstentions.
Steve,
Bill?
so we can do this at a later meeting, if you so choose. I don't know if you want to amend how minutes are taken. I know when I took over, coming from a very regulated background, I had these minutes kind of expanded versus the traditional, Article 1 voted, Article 2 voted, and none of the, the verbiage that I kind of insisted on. So, it doesn't have to be discussed tonight, but if you want to make it easier for the minute takers to just not put in all this back and forth, now would be the time.
No, Bill, and I agree with you. I think it has to have a little bit more context than just article, period, resumming the article. I think it has to have some context to it. And that's really another push, I think, for the town hall to be doing the minutes for us based on recording. So, but I think we can have a further conversation later on, if you will. So I can reach out to Mike and lay down expectations for tonight's minutes. But I think we leave any of the other minutes as is. Does that make sense, Bill?
Yep.
Anyone else? Does anyone have any? Sorry, go ahead. Who was that?
I was going to say, do you want the best motion of the evening?
I will entertain a motion to adjourn the FinCom meeting. Oh,
So move.
I have,
Second.
okay. Any other conversation? Before that, thank you guys very much. I know we got a lot done tonight. I think there was some good conversation, and let's expect the same thing. So, Amy, congratulations on vice chair, and I think looking forward to a good year of discussion on our budgets going forward and how to make this process better and ongoing. So, with all that said, I'm not going to say any more. I will entertain a motion. Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Paula,
Yes?
and I am yes as well. So that's unanimous. Thank you guys very much. Have a great night.
Good night.